guys, what's up? So I have a ton of videos to film today. I am extremely tired. It is 9:17. He is snoring. But we are doing a makeup and mystery today. So this is such an interesting case, and we are going to be talking about Mark. I don't know if I'm going to say his last name right. Gerardots, and Gerardot, and Meredith Chapman. And this is a pretty famous case now. It's quite intriguing because it is a murder-suicide that stems from a love triangle, and I think that this is honestly, I think like this is gonna be one of those cases that a lot of people are kind of like gonna have different opinions on, varying opinions. So Meredith Chapman was the other woman in this situation. She was the younger woman who got involved with Mark Gerardots, knowing he was married, and actually Meredith was married at the time as well, but she still proceeded to pursue a relationship with Mark, which I do I don't like the other woman. I don't like cheaters. I don't like the fact that she knew he was married and she proceeded to pursue a relationship with him. I know that there are people out there that are going to blame Meredith because she is the other woman in this situation, and she really should not have pursued that relationship because men are weak, let's just be completely honest. I hate men. But men are weak, and she, as the woman, should have thought about how it would have affected her if her husband had done that to her. You know, from everything I've found on Meredith, she's like really freaking smart, so I don't want anybody to say anything about it because like she's really smart. Also, I do want to remind you guys that even though at the time I'm filming this is a small YouTube channel, there is always the possibility that Meredith's family or her friends could see this video and can read your comments, and please be respectful. And if I find that your comment is disrespectful in any way to Meredith, Mark, or Janair or their families, I'm going to delete it because I wouldn't want somebody to talk about that about me or even you. So if it's a disrespectful comment, it's going to get deleted. Please remember that these are people still, and their families are still here, and their families still have feelings, and just please try to be respectful, even though this situation is just messed up on so many levels. I'm more in the terms and tone of I'm just kind of disgusted with all three of them, to be completely honest, for different reasons at this point. You know, I'm disgusted with Meredith and the fact that she was married and knew Mark was married and still proceeded to pursue a relationship. I'm disgusted with Mark with the way he chose to go about things, where he proceeded to pursue a relationship with a younger woman knowing he was still married. And even now, like, he talks all the time about Meredith in just such a loving way. And it's like, what about the woman you spent your 20 years married to? He doesn't even seem to take responsibility for the fact that he was the reason that Janair, his wife, was drove crazy in this situation. Like, I don't even know what I would do in this situation, so I don't even really want to talk about something like that because I feel very bad for Janair. But Mark, I mean, nobody likes a cheater, let's just be completely honest, and he is the cheater in this situation. Like, nobody likes a cheater. It also hits me the wrong way that Mark talks about Meredith the way he does, and he doesn't really talk about Janair the way he talks about Meredith. I just want you guys to remember that Janair was the one he was married to for 20 years. This situation is Mark's fault in a way. At least I believe so. Because the way Janair saw it was that her husband was leaving her husband of 20 years was leaving her for a younger woman. And I don't know what woman wouldn't feel upset about that situation. You know, I mean, there are amazing women out there. I'm sure if my dad was like that with my mother would just be like, sayonara, I didn't need you anyways, bitch. That is, I think, the way most women would want to look at it, but Jennair was also at the time had lost her job, so she was very, very heavily dependent on Mark. And Jennair is obviously the one who, you know, she pulled the trigger. She is the murderer. She killed Meredith and then she killed herself. So let's talk about the murder-suicide. So on this day, Jennair and Mark were actually meeting up to discuss the final bits of their divorce. I'm gonna put this here. I'm gonna try it here today. But anyways, they were supposed to be talking about the final bits of their divorce because at this point, Mark was actively pursuing a relationship with Meredith and he was leaving Jennair. Jennair was very upset about this and she was in counseling. And we'll talk a little bit about what her therapist has said in a little bit. But anyways, he has the text messages to prove it, but he was waiting at the restaurant for her and she was late and he received a message that said she took the wrong turn. So he continued to wait for her and he told her, you know, when you get here you'll see me outside. And then a message came in that said, I'm not coming, just go home, in all caps. And then she sent a picture to Mark of a pile of trash. On top of this trash pile was a used condom, and it didn't take Mark very, very long to figure out that Jennair was at Meredith's house. And he started freaking out. Jennair started texting him things like, you know, you ruined my life. She's not wrong. So Mark starts freaking out and decides to go to Meredith's house. So he drives to Meredith's house and didn't think anything of it and decides to look around the house and looks for Jennair. And he saw Meredith's body face down on the floor and he starts freaking out because he could tell she wasn't breathing. And one of Meredith's neighbors actually saw Mark freaking out, so they decide to check out why Mark is freaking out, and they go inside and that's where they find Meredith's body, and police were called. So upon further investigation, they actually found Jennair's body not far from Meredith's body, and she was also dead. Now, at first, police actually thought that these women were both killed by somebody, that somebody came in and killed these women, and they originally really thought it was Mark who had done it, and they started really hammering him pretty hard because he was acting so suspicious, and he was acting so suspicious because he knew that this was his fault. Meredith would still be here if he hadn't gotten involved with her, if he had just remained happy in his marriage with Jennair. None of this really would have happened. I do blame Mark for that, and I think a lot of people do. You know, if Meredith had just stayed in her marriage to Luke, or even just moved on from her husband's name was Luke, if she had moved on from him and divorced him, and just proceeded to pursue a relationship with somebody who was single, none of this would have happened. But anyways, after they moved Jennair's body, that's where they found the gun underneath Jennair. So after piecing everything together from Mark, with Jennair being Mark's wife and Meredith being Mark's lover, didn't take police long to discover that this was a murder-suicide stemming from a love triangle, with Mark as the cause. What's amazing is that Mark had met Meredith at the University of Delaware, where he interviewed for a job with her, and he actually had gotten an interview with another company that would have been better, would have paid more, and would have had more opportunities for him. And he was on the way there when he decided to turn around and go back to the University of Delaware because he wanted to pursue this relationship with Meredith. So he was very, very into Meredith, in my opinion, from the start. So I'm curious on to if he groomed Meredith into the relationship. Either way, it doesn't matter. They were both in the wrong. Meredith never should have gotten involved with a married man. Whether she was married or not, you should never get involved with a married man. And Mark never should have gotten involved with somebody else while he was married. I mean, if Mark had divorced Jennair before any of this happened and then proceeded to pursue a relationship with Meredith, I would be 100% on Mark's side with this, because he would have did the right thing instead of being, having infidelities. Like, he was sleeping with Meredith before he divorced his wife. Come on, people. Men, do you have no shame? And this is a question I actually find myself asking myself this a lot, and that is, they're a good man out there, honestly. Like, there really doesn't seem to be a good man. My boys are good. I'm gonna raise them to be better men than what we have nowadays, because men fucking suck. I don't know, like I said, I'm kind of just disgusted with all three, although I kind of lean a little bit more towards Jennair, because I know that at some point she is a victim. She is the biggest victim in all of this, because she didn't do anything wrong, and she was just such a good and loyal person, and she snapped, honestly, because of Mark. So I do kind of see Jennair as the victim the most in this, because Meredith, if you get involved with anybody who is married, you should know that this is always a possibility. We humans are driven by our emotions. Our instincts is basically driven off of emotion. So if you get involved with a married person, then you should just know that this basically is a possibility of something that can happen to you. And I feel like Meredith knew that, and so did Mark, and they weighed the options, because Mark has even came out and said that he thinks that Jennair tried to kill all three of them. Mark has wrote a book, and he has a blog on this whole subject. I believe it's called Irreplaceable. Again, my problem with Mark is that he talks so lovingly about Meredith, and he was with Jennair for 20 plus years, and it's all about Meredith for him. Meredith, 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 Meredith. And one of the texts that Jennair had sent to him was, she said that she hopes that he never found happiness, and I do think that she took that from him in taking Meredith away. So, and I'm sure he feels the same way. Meredith was targeted because of him, and I did mention that Meredith was also married to Luke Chapman, I believe was his name, and, when Jennair had found out about the divorce, she actually contacted Luke and told him about it, and that is, I think, what stemmed the divorce between Meredith and Luke. Though I do have to say, Luke actually got the proceeds to Meredith's life insurance policy after she was killed. I told you guys we would talk a little bit about what Jennair's therapist has said. So Jennair was depressed when this whole divorce process and cheating, the affair was going on, so she was seeing a therapist. So after this all happened, the therapist has actually said that Jennair was not showing any signs of this, that she was actually showing signs of moving on. She was planning to move out of Delaware and start a new life, so she really wasn't showing any signs of this, although police did find that she had purchased the gun 5 weeks before the murder. Most people, I think, generally believe that when Jennair was stalking them, because she was stalking them, and going through Meredith's trash, and Jennair found the used condom, is really what set Jennair off, because in her eyes, her husband was trading her in for a younger model, basically. Jennair was 47 and Meredith was 33. I think any woman can see why Jennair felt the way that she did. Ultimately, it is no excuse, and thank you for taking a ride down this case with me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye, guys.